like to start the show with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the hey nani nani are the experts talking about. Hey, Jacob, it's going well. How about you? We want to know, what are the experts talking about? Why do we care about these terms? I don't even think I need this today, Traven. I'm not even sure. But I don't know about you. I want to be effective. I want to be an effective ally because my son was diagnosed with autism, and there was a time when he did not have a voice. And so I needed to help him, partially by being his voice until he had a voice, but also to protect him and to help him to get access to services and to help him to grow, right? But then as my son progressed and was able to tell us what his opinions were, which was the very thing we were working for, by the way, that was the promised land that we were trying to get to, for him to be able to tell us and communicate with the world what he wanted. So when he could, I had to step back and take a different role and say, I am now an ally. I am here to support, and I am here to listen. And when need be, I'm, here to jump in. But part of being an ally is, if you don't understand what the people are talking about, you can't be as effective, right? So we try to take these terms one at a time. First, we give you the actual definition. Sometimes I make fun of them. Just gonna, because sometimes that's all that's available. Is that, like, can we please just make fun of this definition? Because otherwise there's no accessing it. But we always give you a working definition. We always try to get you to a point where you have a beginning understanding of what the thing is and why it might be important for you to learn more about it. That's really the thing. Be gentle with yourself. If you don't get it the first time, it is not because you are not smart. You're smart. These are hard concepts. And sometimes we need to learn it in a lot of different ways. We need to hear about it, so we're on the lookout for it, but then we need to see it. And then we need to see it again so we can compare and contrast, right? It's okay. But you'll get there eventually. So let's take a look at what today's jargon term is, because it's my understanding we've never done it before. We certainly have talked about, although I got to say, I don't really use this term a lot, but people do. And let's talk about why they do and why I don't. So non-functional routines. Doesn't it sound like an exercise class? That's what it sounds like to me. Non-functional routines. Let's take a look at our actual definition and see what it says. Specified, sequential, and repeated actions or behaviors that a person engages in that outwardly appear to be senseless. Notice that it says outwardly appear. That doesn't mean that it is senseless, but this is what often the judgment is on non-functional routines, right? So I don't think there's anything to be made fun of here. I think what we need to be mindful of is that outwardly appear, which is not what things look like, is often not what they are. But think about that. Specified, sequential, and repeated actions or behaviors. We talked about this pretty much the other day, right? It's that repetitive and restrictive, but this is just another name for it, non-functional routines. But let's go ahead and move on to our working definition to see where I think we need to be. This is my opinion. Behaviors such as lining up toys, splashing water, playing with string, not stepping on certain colors, etc. Like, the list is endless, right? These behaviors may not appear to have a purpose to a casual observer, but may in fact have deep significance for the individual engaged in the behavior. We see these kinds of behaviors frequently with an autism spectrum diagnosis, that someone will have a repetitive routine that they will do. We talked about this the other day, that maybe they line up the cars, and an outside observer looks at that and goes, well, that's not functional. That's not doing anything for them. They should be playing with the cars. And it becomes all very black and white. And I just want to say, there's very little in life that's black and white, but let's put a black and white out there that makes sense. And we're going to talk more about this in a second. Behaviors don't happen for no reason. No behaviors happen for no reason. And especially if a behavior is I'm taking it out. We don't need this. especially if a behavior is repeated. If somebody is doing a behavior over and over, it has a purpose. You may not be able to see it. You might not be able to understand it. This does not mean that it does not have a purpose. Now, let's talk about how functional the purpose is. So, and we talked about this the other day, if I'm doing something to calm myself down, and I am someone who has never been taught techniques of how to calm myself down, it's possible that the thing that I go to calm myself down is not really effective, but it's just effective enough for me that it takes the edge off. For instance, I am someone who, I eat. When I'm nervous, I eat. This is not really an effective way to deal with nerves, is it? It's not. And yet, I spent a lot of years doing that and still occasionally will do that because it worked just enough and I didn't know other things to do, right? So I've learned that I can do other things and I have the ability now to make the choice to do other things. But for a lot of years, I wasn't even looking for a way to deal with it. I was like, well, the eating thing works now enough and I kind of like it. So I'm going to keep doing it. Right. We all engage in things that have a purpose that sometimes aren't as effective at creating the desired thing that we want as we would think, right? If we can admit to that, all of us, then let's put it on looking at autism, that there are things that individuals with autism will do that serve a purpose for them. It might be to calm them down. It might be to help them to be present. It might just feel good. If we look at something like flapping hands, because that was something that my son would do, is put his hands close to his eyes and do this. And as a parent, I remember looking at that and going, what is that? What is that? Right. And someone said to me, do it for a couple of minutes at exactly what it is that your child does and try to think to yourself, what might be the purpose for this? And I discovered, oh my gosh, there's so many things about doing this close to your eyes. First of all, if you're bored, it's something to do. Second of all, if you do it fast enough, you can see colors. Some people, you can see colors, like seeing a rainbow. So if I'm bored and I want to do this and I see colors, right? For some people, this is very calming. For some people, this keeps them awake, right? It's not random. If we could just shove the idea that behaviors are random into the ocean, everybody, right? All together, shove into the ocean. It's not random. Now, if we begin to look at it and go, so what's the function of this behavior? And sometimes we're not going to know. Sometimes we got to like suss it out, right? We got to put on our Sherlock Holmes hat and go, is the individual doing this when they're bored? Well, I don't really like for anybody to be bored. So is there something that we can have them to do that's even more beneficial for them that gets rid of the boredom? Are they somebody who really loves to do a Rubik's Cube and that they stay engaged in the Rubik's Cube? And if they do it fast enough, they're seeing the colors. And does that engage their brain in a different way than this? Now we're making minute judgments here, right? But I will tell you that if someone is so bored that they're only doing this and that's all that they want to do, it's going to be very difficult to teach them handwriting. And handwriting is a useful skill that we'd like to teach. So, sometimes we want to mitigate some of these behaviors in order to teach other things and to give them other options. It is so important that we don't stigmatize this. So important that we don't stigmatize this. And it's so important that we don't go, well, we're just going to cut that out forever. Like we're just going to take scissors and cut it out of their life because it's not functional. That's really not where it's at. I love that Temple Grandin's mother, she wanted to spin that metal plate on the end of her bed and still says, oh, that's enjoyable, calming. It's my scientific brain is doing all kinds of different things. I can, if I move it a certain speed, the colors that reflect on it, she can give you the whole explanation of why it's still fascinating to her. And she's somebody who's gone on to write so many books. how many people done all of these things? And she says, I wouldn't have done all those things if my mother hadn't said, you can't sit there and do that all the time. Let's find other things that are enjoyable to you too. But her mother didn't say, there's no more spinning that plate. That's not happening. No more of that. But she looked at it, saw what's the function, because some things you can't say, okay, you can do it an hour a day. Other things you can. Mom looked at it, said, I know you really like that. You can do that, but you also have to do other things because that was right for Temple and right for that behavior. Emily, I love the things that you're writing in. Emily says that, I know you said somewhere, you've written in a lot. Emily says, I got my diagnosis 5 weeks ago. I'm 41 and I've learned a lot about autism and how I can function better. Emily, we're throwing our arms around you. Emily goes on to say, my husband has to be my voice and I have to raise my voice. He knows, I'm not sure. He knows very well what is. He is educated and working with children and young people with autism. Well, isn't that convenient? I'm saying hello to Dawn. Good morning to everybody. And Emily says, like stimming, people think that that's stupid and childish. You know, I know that there are people who think that, Emily, and those are people who are ignorant. And we're gonna language it that way. They are ignorant. They don't understand that they also, everyone stims. So that is ignorance when they think that is childish or stupid. Emily went on to say, I line up cups in the kitchen and my angels in the living room. Sometimes that just becomes a style choice, right? Ambrosia says, that's my son, but me also, when things are not where they are supposed to be. You like it. Everybody has different things, right, that we need in order to have order in our lives. And Emily says, I see colors when I hear music. You know, there's a name for that. I can't think of it right now. Isn't it Kinna something? I'll come up with it later. Okay. DeWall, yes, please ask questions here. I see your question and ask another one. Okay. So when we're thinking about, I mean, the non-functional behaviors makes me mad because if we come with the premise of all behaviors have a function, then how can there be a non-functional behavior? So I want us to start thinking about, but is the function like really efficient? Because we can come up with a behavior that's even more efficient. And that's really where it's at. Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.